Welcome back to Rooftop Talks. Today I'm going to talk about a very requested topic. Someone actually directly requested that I cover this topic, and that is crop deaths. If you spend any length of time as a vegan, you will have been challenged on crop deaths, and it's a pretty easy one to debunk. So the argument will be something like, vegans aren't perfect either. To produce vegan food, there'll be small animals, critters and things that will be killed in the combine harvester that rolls through a field, and they might be killed under the tractor tires and things like that. They might be insecticides that are dusted on crops that kill insects and small creatures. The farmer might go out with a shotgun and shoot and kill the nearby rabbits who are nibbling away at the crops at the edge of his field. That's the idea. So vegans are no better than non-vegans. Vegans also take a toll on the earth and require deaths. That's the argument, okay, more or less. It's an attempt to level the playing field because this is in response. It's a knee-jerk reaction, a reflex, if you will, at having your behavior called into question morally, okay? So it's just a kind of reflexive response, and it sounds good in the moment, and it's an accusation back at the vegan, and vegans have to be prepared for this. You have to understand what this argument is. It's a utilitarian argument, right? It's looking at overall animal deaths, attempting to keep a calculus on how many deaths are caused by which people, and if the vegan lifestyle is not at zero for deaths, that's a criticism according to this utilitarian argument. And I used to respond to this with more utilitarianism, with a utilitarian answer. And it was great because it was very easy and quick and concise to do. So basically I'd get attacked by an angry anti-vegan or non-vegan, and they'd be like, what about the crop deaths? What about the deaths that you cause and all of that? And I would just say, what do we feed animals? And just wait, just let the silence sink in, wait for an answer. What do you feed animals? And they'd go, but we feed them crops, we feed them whatever we want, we feed them all kinds of things. And it's like, no, we feed them crops. We grow crops and we feed them to animals, and we could feed the world many times over with the crops that we feed to animals instead.
That's shitty woke attitude. You've got fucking clue what real life is about.
Inform me.
Do you eat plants?
Yeah. No, tell me why. No, tell me why.
Plants are sentient. Science has found out in the last 2 months, plants are sentient, trees are sentient.
Okay.
If you stand next to that tree, not only can it see you, it can see what colour top you're wearing.
Okay, so to you that's a serious problem.
No, not to me, to science.
What do we feed to animals? What do we feed to our farm animals?
Whatever we decide to feed them.
What do we feed them?
Anything.
But that's why I eat meat and I eat
Plants, a lot of plants. If plant sentience is a thing, do you think we'd be killing less plants by feeding plants to animals and then eating those animals, or do you think we kill less plants by eating plants?
I don't think we need to be eating animals.
Right.
There's no need to be eating animals. There's no need to be farming.
You have to produce enough crops to grow that animal into adulthood before then killing that animal, violating that animal's rights, exploiting that animal for their bodies. And if you know anything about trophic levels, you know that is a woefully inefficient use of crops, use of resources. But this is the old way that I used to meet the crop deaths argument. I no longer use that argument because it's utilitarian nonsense. We are not utilitarians as vegans. Utilitarianism is a different moral framework, and sometimes it disguises itself as vegans. Sometimes they reach conclusions that appear on their face to be veganism, but it's not veganism. Veganism is the moral stance that we should stop the exploitation of animals at the hands of mankind. It's the moral obligation to not exploit animals in any way, shape or form. Utilitarians go for some kind of, they try to calculate the sum total of suffering and utility, pleasure and pain. They put it all in a big, confused, jumbled up calculus, and they try and make decisions based on that improve usually human well-being And sometimes the animals get involved in that calculus, but often they're left off of the balance sheet. They're left off of the equation a lot of the time. Anyway, I've critiqued utilitarianism enough. I've explained the crop debts argument sufficiently. You can read into more of it, I'm sure. But now I'm going to give you 5 reasons why crop debts is an entirely insufficient criticism of the vegan principle. Number 1, animal exploitation is not inherent within the system of plant agriculture. For example, in a vertical indoor farming setup, I could bring you into the warehouse, which is separated off, the plants are under UV light, and I would invite you, like, where are the crop deaths happening? Like, point to where the crop deaths are happening. It's indoors, there are no critters in here, there are no insects. Where is this death that you're talking about? As an example of how crop deaths are not inherent within crop farming. Deaths are not an inherent part. You are wrong if you are inserting that. You are mistaken. With animal farming, the only exception to this counter-argument would be some form of natural death, death by natural causes. Name the last animal carcass you ate where the animal died of natural causes. How did that turn out for you? Did you get ill? You probably would have got ill if you did, because why was that animal dead and dying? Was it enjoyable? Was the meat edible? No, I don't think so. So, with the exception of some kind of death by natural causes, opportunism, some kind of scavenging, all of the products of animals are gained through exploitation. The other thing is consent, right? Even if you were to wait for that animal to die, you didn't consume the body through consent. I wouldn't have the consent of your grandma to eat her body when she had passed away through natural causes. That would just be disrespectful for me to dig up her grave and consume her body. It's a lack of respect. It's a lack of boundaries. And I know utilitarians don't give a hoot about the sanctity of the individual, but that's why they're savages. That's why they're barbaric, and we shouldn't listen to them. There's just one more reason. Number 2, accidental deaths are not exploitative. They are accidents, okay? So field mice are often brought up by people arguing about crop deaths. Now, field mice, they are evolved over millions of years of evolution to evade predators who have, like, excellent hearing. You think of the barn owl, falcons, these birds of prey, they have incredible sight and hearing. These mice, try catching one with your bare hands. Try catching a mouse out in a field with your bare hands. You won't be able to, right? You're telling me that field mice struggle to hear a big, noisy, slow tractor coming towards them, a big, noisy combine harvester. You're full of shit. Also, if you look at the design of a combine harvester as well, I'm going to go out on a tangent here, but if you look at the design of a combine harvester, they do not excavate close to the ground. If they did, the combine harvester would break very quickly. They have to cut the crops way above ground level. They don't get down that far. But also, accidental deaths are not exploitation. If you believe they are a form of exploitation, because remember, vegans are against exploitation. If you think that they are a form of exploitation, can you please explain to me how, for example, a traffic accident is a form of exploiting the person who was caught up and harmed in that traffic accident? Can you explain how that's a form of exploitation? You don't understand what the word exploitation means. Exploitation is about gaining something without consent from another sovereign individual. So you're just using these words far too creatively if you think that an accident is a form of exploitation. Number 3, crop deaths, it's a mischaracterization of veganism. The person making the crop deaths argument does not understand what veganism is. It's portraying the vegan proposal, the vegan initiative, as some kind of death minimization cult. It's not about the number of deaths. It's not about 0 deaths. It's not. It's about principle. It's about rights. It's about respecting rights. It's about maintaining principle. Number 4, plant farmers who do go out and kill rabbits with a shotgun are not vegans. That is not vegan behavior, and they shouldn't do it. And currently, we do not live in a surveillance state where we can know if the farmers on that farm are doing that. That is not within our sphere of control. We don't have that control, and we can't have that control as deontologists, because that would be ludicrous to try and create a surveillance state where we knew down to the minute the behavior of farmers on these crop farms. If you know of a farmer who is killing rabbits who stray onto their farms and eat away at some of their crops to increase their yield, they murder those rabbits. I don't know, man, that's not good. That's not vegan behavior, because the rabbit can eat some of those crops and it's not going to put the farmer out of business. It's not. Don't listen to anyone who tells you it will. And they're not vegans. Those farmers are not vegans. And unfortunately, I can't control that. The only form of control I have over that farmer with the shotgun is to peacefully advocate for veganism. I am advocating just as much for that vegan crop farmer to become a vegan as I am talking to you as the consumer. I'm appealing to everyone here. I'm not selecting who I am appealing to with the vegan message, right? I am also appealing to the farmer. I would hope that crop farmer doesn't murder animals in pursuit of profit. You saying, oh, but farmers kill animals on their crop farms. Yeah, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. I would hope that they don't. I am trying to appeal to those farmers to not do that. And by the way, we have to get our food from somewhere, right? We have to get food somewhere. Let's not be ridiculous about this. I can't do anything about that. And I have to eat. I as an individual matter. Vegans as individuals matter. Vegans need to sustain themselves with food. That's not an excuse for depravity where we eat whatever we want irrespective of who's getting hurt by it. But we have to eat something. This is why it's a mischaracterization of veganism. Vegans have never claimed that they can reduce their toll on the world, their resources, their harm on the world to zero. But vegans don't need to make that claim. Vegans, just like you, were born without consent. I was born into the world without my consent. Therefore, it is justified that I take up some amount of resources, that my existence cause some kind of reasonable amount of harm to sustain myself, because a life that has been born, it's just common sense logic, that being has a right to reasonably take up some resources in order to live. That's why the crop deaths argument so quickly becomes a descent into absurdity. It's funny because the person who throws the crop deaths argument at a vegan is causing all the mess. They're dragging this conversation down into absurdity, but they feel no responsibility in picking up the pieces, in actually behaving and conducting themselves responsibly. Number 5, we got to talk about the chemicals, guys, because very quickly these crop deaths arguers shift the goalposts and they start talking about chemicals. Just the word chemicals is a triggering word, it seems. Like, people are very emotionally funny about the word, anything associated with chemicals. It suggests it's unnatural, it suggests that it's, by default, it's harmful, it's poisonous. I can't go into too much scientific detail, but let me just explain. Most of these chemicals are not lethal. They smell bad to the pests, they taste bad to the pests. They put the pest off from eating that crop, and so the pest is more likely to not eat the crop that tastes bad, that smells bad, and is more likely to eat the crops in the hedgerow next to it, okay? I'm not saying there aren't consequences to using chemicals. Organic is great, not criticizing that. I'm just saying if we used Agent Orange as a pesticide, it would soon have dire consequences for us too. So we don't typically use extremely harmful chemicals that are going to like assassinate animals. But this is what non-vegans are constantly trying to portray. So yeah, I think the main point is that we just have to be sensible about this. The counter-argument against this appeal to futility, or this tu quoque fallacy that is the crop deaths argument, the counter to it is just extend it out, like actually think it through. And through a healthy dose of common sense, you will arrive at a sensible answer where you realize crop death is not a reason to not go vegan. Vegans have a right to occupy space on Earth. It's never been about this death minimization cult that is utilitarianism. All of us die eventually, but we can choose how we conduct ourselves, whether we respect the rights and the sovereignty and the inherent moral value of the beings that we share this earth with. Okay, that's on us. And I'm going to finish it there. That's basically my angle. This is a rights-based approach. These utilitarian approaches, like, it's a fun zinger to just ask, oh yeah, what do the farm animals eat? That can be fun to say in the moment because you'll get to see them stutter and stammer all over the place and make a fool out of themselves. Just realizing that they've walked into a trap, it's fun, but that utilitarian counter-argument has like consequences in the long run where this false notion of veganism is allowed to persist, and we should be addressing that because veganism is not utilitarianism. They are largely separate philosophical frameworks to operate by, and I can tell you which one is more sturdy in the long run. Deontology. That's the end of the video. Goodbye.
What we see isn't real. We understand that. That building isn't really like that. What we hear, sound doesn't exist. Pure vibration.
So we interpret.